Hey there, everybody. I know that we had a little bit of controversy over the whole summoning pool adjustment thing that happened in Fire Emblem Heroes on the FEH channel that happened on April 4th. However, I think it's just a matter of IS not really knowing what needs to be demoted, so I thought I'd make this handy video. No. In reality, I had some thoughts I just wanted to get off my chest, and I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit anyway. So what I'm going to do is basically, I'm going to throw out 9 units that are all Book 1 inclusive. I'm not looking at Book 2 or Book 3, even though I feel like not all of those should be in the 5-star pool that are. But I wanted to look at least the ones that are no longer included in the new or special Heroes summoning pools for banners that come out, because I don't know why some of these are 5 stars, and so I wanted to share that list with you. So let's go through and look at 9, a relatively arbitrary number that I came up with. There are definitely more that probably shouldn't be a 5-star, but it's also worth noting maybe that you can share your opinion in the comments. That's always encouraged. However, be civil, because I know that this is an incredibly touchy topic, but I'm sure all of my subscribers will be very kind to one another because you are all rock stars. So first up, we're looking at Azura, right? And I've got her stats over on the right, courtesy of Game Press's layout. So Azura, I don't know, man. Like, we have other options for dancers, singers. Azura doesn't really have anything. She's got speed +3, fortifies res 3, sing, sapphire lance, which is like weapon triangle advantage. So I don't know. There's not really anything she does stellar. Her stats aren't necessarily all that fantastic either, so that's worth noting. And we also have a handful of other dancers, singers that are good. One of which, one of the best free-to-play units you could probably get, and one of the top dancers as well, or I guess singers, that would be Young Azura. Now granted, she's not a blue unit, I wouldn't hold that against her. I still think she's pretty top tier, but I don't know why Azura hasn't necessarily been demoted yet. The stats are pretty average, and she doesn't really have any, great skills. The next one that we're going to look at is Minerva. Now this one's maybe a little more controversial, just because her kit's a little bit better. She does come with Sacred Cowl, so like that's kind of interesting, I guess. Her weapon does grant special trigger cooldown -1, so there's that. But we have other weapons that do that are definitely not 5-star locked. She's got Life and Death 3, which is not locked. She's got Ward Flyers, which, if you're wondering, is kind of a semi-rare skill. Only 3 units have it currently. Minerva, New Year Camilla, and then of course Shigure, who is now 3- and 4-star unit. That's a thing. So I don't necessarily know why we're keeping Minerva locked at 5-star. Again, her stats aren't necessarily that stellar. She's very well rounded. Don't get me wrong, she's not necessarily a bad unit like some of the ones that we're going to be looking at in a little bit. But I don't know. I feel like she could at least be a 4- and 5-star, if nothing else. We have a lot of stellar units that have been demoted and are really good when you +10 them. I don't know. I'm thinking about a unit like Shersh, for example, who has a killer weapon, upgrade, promotion, new weapon skill, and I don't know. Minerva just didn't age all that well, if I'm being completely honest here. Next up, we're taking a look at the legend herself, Mist. Because why not? Mist is a healer, in case you didn't know. She has 1 set of passive skills, that being Spur Defense Res 2, which, albeit, like, under certain circumstances, might be kind of helpful, I guess. Male Morgan does also have that skill, who is also available at the 4-star and also now 3-star. So I'm not necessarily really in camp like, oh, well, we gotta keep her for that. She comes with Miracle as well, Recover Plus, which again isn't like necessarily that crazy. you know, it's good, but a lot of healers already have that. And then there's also her weapon, which is slow plus, which Riss has as well. I'm not calling him Weirs this time because, you know, symbol of respect, I genuinely think a plus 10 Weirs is better than a Mist. Just even at a 4-star, he's probably better. You can see the stats over there. Again, nothing too stellar. She's a great res tank. But beyond that, she really doesn't do a whole lot, and she's going to have to carry a pretty wicked kit investment to make that happen. Maybe Mist is your favorite. That's great. I don't, you know, that doesn't really impact who should be demoted and who shouldn't be, which is an interesting thought as we come up on phae. Phae is, of course, the only Fire Sweep bow unit that we have. And Fire Sweep bow is pretty nice, honestly. It's a very useful weapon. Fire Sweep weapons in general, pretty nice to have. We already have Lance and Sword at the 4 and 3-star level at this point. So with a little bit of feathers, you can get to the Fire Sweep, Lance, Sword plus, if that's really what you want to build. But Phae is currently the only one that has that. She's also the only one that has bow experience. So I guess for that, maybe she's worthy of staying at a 5-star. But really, like, attack is, what, 30? I think is what that says. Yeah, her attack is 30. Her speed's kind of bad, but that doesn't matter because she's got Fire Sweep anyway. She's not going to double anybody, right? And Fire Sweep is pretty much like, the foe can't counterattack, and that's nice. But if you're faster than them, you can double them, which is also really, really nice. So typically, the Fire Sweep users are faster. Phae is not faster. And she doesn't really have enough attack power to really nuke anybody with a one-hit. So, really, she's just kind of there to tank hits. But Armor Emblem exists. So I don't know that Phae is really going to do a great job of that in the current meta. Again, she's not a bad unit. She didn't age all that well. And for her to still be locked at a 5-star is kind of crazy. And above all that, like, bow experience, that's just a nice little quality of life skill for people to have, right? Your experience, your SP skills, those are nice to have. Like, it's good for the player, but it just makes the grind less intensive. And with all the new game modes and every game mode that we have at this point, granted not all of them consume stamina, but it would be nice to have. Just free and open. You know? It's not a bad thing to have quality of life adjustments like that. Next up, we're going to take a quick look at Jafar. Again, not a bad unit. His stats aren't necessarily terrible. 33 speed is pretty okay, I guess. We do have faster dagger units, though. Attack of 26 is pretty bleh, if I'm being brutally honest. And then, you know, we've got some decent defenses. His HP is pretty high, you know. He's just overall kind of, like, well-rounded. He's not really going to do a crazy amount of damage. But back in the day, when Jafar was, like, one of 4 dagger units that we had, he was pretty good. And you know, he was probably deserving of that 5-star slot. But really, like, Deathly Dagger doesn't really do anything all that fancy. It deals 7 damage to the foe after combat, which is kind of like Poison Strike, I guess. And then there's Life and Death 3 and Threaten Speed 3, which nobody really uses Threaten skills at this point. And then Life and Death, you know, that's already at a very low-cost star heroes that we have. So Jafar he didn't age well, man. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. He didn't age that well. And given how good the 4-star colorless pool is right now, especially after the 4 and 5 stars got demoted to 4 and 3, I don't know, man. I don't know why Jafar is I don't know why he's still in the 5 pool. I genuinely don't. Next up, we are going to be looking at one of my personal favorites as to why I have no idea why he's a 5-star. Leo. You can see his stats there. Again, nothing too crazy. Everybody on this list is pretty much around 140 for the most part, which, you know, not bad stats by any means, but they're not exactly great either. It's also worth noting that you know, his attack is pretty dismal for the most part. His attack is a little sad. He does have Brynhildr, which is kind of nice. I guess the the knocking down movement next turn is kind of a cool side effect to a skill. Blazing Light is always really nice to have. But he's got Savage Blow, which is also on Big Sis Camilla, who is available at 3 and 4 star. And he's got Quick Repose, which, again, is also available in a handful of units at the 4-star range. So, even if he was a 4-star, you'd still have to upgrade him to get Quick Repose 3, which, again, is a pretty good skill. But we've already got that in the 4-star pool anyway, and I don't see the point. I don't see the point. Maybe his weapon. Maybe his weapon. But there's a lot of good Red Tome users that we already have that are free to play, like a Versa. She's pretty solid. I would probably be using a Versa over Leo, hands down, any day. By far more useful. And I don't know. I don't know why he's here. I am confused and sad. Next up, we're going to be looking at Ninian. Now, this one may be a little controversial. Maybe. She's another blue dancer, like we had Azura. She's got Light Breath, which isn't really unique to her. She's also got Escape Route and Fortified Dragons. So Fortified Dragons is kind of like her namesake in this. But if you're unfamiliar, it's also available on some other units. Adrift Corrin, the female Adrift Corrin has it, as does male Kana, who is a free unit. So if you really want Fortified Dragons, you don't necessarily have to keep her around. You can just cash in some Grails and then spend some Feather and get Fortified Dragons. Pretty easy, right? Her stat line isn't necessarily too crazy. She's got pretty good HP. I will give her that. 42 HP is pretty baller. 33 speed for a dancer singer isn't bad either. But again, those stats aren't necessarily all that fantastic. We have young Azura, who is a great singer. We have other units that sing and dance and do a just fine job. Dancer, singer units aren't necessarily meant to be combative units unless you really like them and you build them like with a crazy skill set. That's kind of the only way. Beyond that, I don't see it. I don't get it. All of her skills are readily available in other units, especially with true free to play that you can cash in with Grails. So for what that's worth, kind of interesting. She is still locked at the 5-star. Jenny, someone who I just came across in my Twitch playthrough of Shadows of Valentia, which is always nice. Jenny's stats: great res tank, not so much on the defense. Not that 21 is bad. 35 attack, which I'll get, is pretty high for a staff unit. Speed of 25 and HP of 32, not super great. So she's really only going to take anything that's a special hit necessarily. And she does hit back pretty hard. Like, that's not bad. But she's never going to be able to compare to units like Brave Veronica, Maribel, Elise. Like, those units are definitely the ones to use, and if you already have them, you're probably not using Jenny unless you really like Jenny. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that she should stay locked to the 5-star. Now, I know what you're going to say, but she has Wrathful Staff, and she does have Wrathful Staff. That's very true. I'm not debating that one bit. But Wrathful Staff is pretty much available in most staff units that you're going to use otherwise as a refinement. So I don't necessarily know if that's really worth keeping around. New Year Levitain, Brave Veronica, who is another staff unit that you're probably going to use over Jenny anyway, and Hostile Springs Sakura, Sakura also have Wrathful Staff as fodder potential. But again, it's available in most refinements anyway, so I don't know that alone is enough to keep it. Maybe. I'll give it a hard maybe. She's also got Gravity, but that's available on Lissa, so if you're really looking to give somebody Gravity Plus, just swap out of Lissa. She's readily available most times in the pool at 3 and 4-star. Elise also has Gravity, but again, if you have an Elise, you're probably using Elise and not Jenny. So I don't know. I don't know that the Wrathful Staff alone is worth keeping her at 5-star. And I don't know that staff units in general are that overpowered that they would be... They would need to be limited to that extent. And now finally, the one you've all been waiting for, the bane of my disdain. The legend himself, Luke. Hi, Luke. I hate you. So, Luke is an interesting thing, right? And I've seen some arguments for why he should stay at a 5-star. But I don't necessarily agree with any of them. I'm gonna just spill some tea right away. I don't agree with like any of that rhetoric. He is a 5-star. He does have some interesting skills. So he's got Brave Sword, which while Brave Sword is nice, and you know, similar to the Fire Sweep weapons, it's a very favorable weapon to have. However, Drog has it, Kane has it, Ogma has it, and Arden has it. So, Brave Sword Plus, not really in the tier. Which Drog is, you know, he's probably a better option anyway. Bonfire, lots of units have Bonfire. Panic Ploy. Panic Ploy is a skill that didn't age well, and if you really want to use Panic Ploy anyway, it's a seal. So I don't know that Panic Ploy is really all that stellarly necessary. It's not like that big of a turnout. There's also Fire Boost 3, which I've heard people say that like Fire Boost 3 is the reason that Luke is good, right? And that's why he should stay at a 5-star. First of all, I don't think the boost skills are necessarily all that great. I don't really run into units that run Fire Boost or any kind of boost skill for that matter. But if you're really bonkers about Fire Boost 3, right? There's some other units that have it. One of which is Summer Xander. I'll get, you know, understandable. He's seasonal. The other one is Legends, not Legends, Love Abound's Elwood, which again, free to play unit, available with Grails, and you know, if you really want Fire Boost, you could get it from Elwood. Overall, like Luke he's just, the stats aren't necessarily that great. You know, defensive 30 isn't bad, but when you've got other units running around like Halloween Myrrh, it's I don't know. Like his stats don't necessarily seem all that fantastical. His attack is only 34, which, you know, isn't bad by any means. But he's in the sword pool, which is a hotly contested pool, which is why he probably should not be a 5-star alone. Like, you really got to pick your battles when you're looking at the sword units alone, right? So in my mind, I'm looking at Luke, and I'm also thinking of units like Ira. Now, Luke and Ira, definitely not equal. There's just some things that are not going to be equal in terms of unit usefulness, and Luke is just not there. So his skills didn't age well, his stats didn't necessarily age well, he's in a very competitive pool. That's my take on why Luke should not be necessarily in the 5-star pool. Plus, you know, there's some great units that are 5-star that you can 5-star. With Grails and things like that, it's just better that way. So that's my hot take. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. It's been probably 18 minutes at this point. Listen, that's kind of where I'm at. If you made it to the end, tip of the hat to you. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Again, it's okay to disagree. That's totally fine. IS isn't going to do anything about it anyways. It doesn't really matter. I think they've been pretty clear about what their solution to the summoning pool is so far. But, you know, feedback always helps, and before we send feedback, we should at least get an understanding of everybody and have a conversation about it, so, you know, we're not hitting IS from all kinds of different angles. So let this kind of help guide that conversation, I guess, if that's what you want to talk about. I just personally had to get some of this off my chest, because I am just confused. I'm just confused. Again, there are some other units that shouldn't be 5-stars in my opinion. If this video does well and you guys want to hear more of my thoughts on that, feel free to let me know. And, you know, maybe I'll do a part 2 or something to this. I don't know. I really want to talk about Lynn. Lynn is another unit that didn't age super well. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to cut this off because it's been way too long already. Thank you all so much for listening, for watching, whatever that you did. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Subscribe if you haven't. I do a lot of Fire Emblem Heroes content, along with some Nintendo stuff that pops up once in a while. And if you haven't heard it yet, there's a new FEH episode that's out. That's the podcast that I do monthly now. And it's actually with another FEH content creator. I got a hold of SageMaster15, and we sat down for about an hour and 20 minutes and talked about everything that happened in March and took some shots at predictions coming up in April too. So feel free to go listen to that as well. That'll be in the description if you want to check that out. But that's it for now. I've talked far too much. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.